The streets of Zarkai were never quiet, but tonight they were alive with a strange kind of chaos. Neon signs buzzed and flickered above, casting sharp blue and green light onto the cracked, wet pavement. Smoke rose from vents, curling in the air like silver snakes. Aliens of all shapes and sizes moved past the boy, their claws and tentacles brushing against each other as they hurried by. Some glared at him, others didn't notice him at all. He was small, ragged, and human, easy to ignore in a city that had long stopped caring about people like him. The boy crouched under a broken hollow advertisement, trying to warm his hands. He had gone most of the day without food, and his stomach was a painful reminder of that. He had learned long ago not to beg, not to fight, not to draw attention. Survival meant keeping his head low, moving fast, and trusting his instincts. Tonight, his instincts were telling him something was wrong. A low rumble shook the street. At first, he thought it was just one of the massive air vehicles that hovered above the city. But the rumble grew louder, faster, and sharper. Then came the bright streak, a silver craft, tilted at a dangerous angle, heading straight for the plaza where hundreds of aliens were milling about. Panic spread immediately. Tentacles flailed, claws grabbed bags and devices, and shrill cries echoed. Some ran, some froze, but all eyes followed the descending danger. The boy's heart hammered in his chest. He didn't understand the mechanics of the craft, didn't know why it was falling, and didn't care. All he knew was that people, or aliens, would die if something didn't happen. He leapt over a puddle, boots splashing, and sprinted toward the center of the plaza. He didn't have a plan. He only had instinct. The craft hit the ground with a thunderous crash that shook the pavement. Sparks flew, and a cloud of smoke and heat rolled outward. Aliens screamed, some leaping to avoid the flames. From the cockpit, a figure struggled, an alien in rich robes and a heavy metal collar that marked him as important. His face was pale, his eyes wide with fear. Everyone recognized him instantly. Zorith Valen, one of the wealthiest, most powerful beings in the galaxy. And tonight he was trapped, alone, in a craft that could explode at any second. The boy's chest tightened. He didn't know what to do, but his legs carried him forward anyway. The crowd backed away, too afraid to act. The boy slid under the craft, feeling the heat lick his skin. Sparks danced dangerously close. His hands found a lever sticking out from the wreckage. He didn't know what it did. It might have been a safety release. It might have been something deadly. Do something, an alien screamed from behind, voice shaking. The boy didn't answer. He pulled the lever, not thinking, just acting. A low click sounded. The craft tilted slightly, and a hiss of steam followed. The cockpit shifted, and the alien inside coughed but did not fall. Sparks died down. Heat retreated. The boy scrambled out, dirty and sweating, heart pounding so hard it almost hurt. The crowd stared at him. Silence fell for a moment, broken only by the hiss of the craft and the distant hum of neon. The boy looked around. Every alien was staring at him, mouths open, eyes wide. Not one expected a small, ragged human boy to save Zorith Valen. Not one. Zorith climbed out of his craft, robes singed, collar crooked. He looked at the boy, confusion and shock fighting across his face. Then a faint smile tugged at his lips. "You saved me," he said, voice low and steady. "Why?" The boy shrugged, wiping dirt from his face. "Didn't want anyone to die," he muttered. His voice was rough from hunger and smoke, but it carried something in it. Something aliens were not used to: simplicity, honesty, courage. Zorith's eyes studied him. He saw no fear, no greed, no calculation. Just a human boy, small, dirty, ragged, standing where no one else dared. Something stirred in the alien's mind, a strange respect, a shock that someone so insignificant in his world could act with such power. Guards rushed forward, bows and energy weapons drawn. But Zorith held up a hand. "Leave him," he said. "He did not act for me. He acted for what is right. That is rare." The boy barely heard him. He was already stepping back, hands trembling from the adrenaline, lungs burning, but proud in a way he had never felt. Around him, the crowd whispered, alien voices full of awe and disbelief. For the first time in his life, the boy felt more than hunger and fear. He felt seen. And the city, cold, indifferent, dangerous, had just witnessed something it had never expected. A human boy saving one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy with nothing but instinct and courage. And somewhere deep inside, the boy knew that this night would change everything. The boy hadn't expected what came next. He thought his part was over. He had pulled the lever, saved the alien billionaire, and the crowd had started to calm. But Zorith Valen wasn't done. The billionaire's gaze followed the boy as he tried to slip away into the shadows, hiding from the sudden attention. Wait, Zorth called, his voice cutting through the murmurs of the crowd. The boy froze. Every instinct told him to run, to vanish before anyone noticed him. But something about the tone, it was not a command, not exactly, it held curiosity, almost respect. The boy looked back. Zorth was stepping closer, robes flowing, every movement deliberate. His eyes, dark and sharp, scanned the boy as if he were examining a strange object for the first time. You acted without thinking of yourself, Zorth said slowly. Why? The boy shrugged, kicking a piece of broken glass away. Didn't want anyone to get hurt. That's all. His voice was quiet but firm. He didn't understand why anyone would be so amazed by that. On the streets, helping others often meant trouble for him. Still, he had done it anyway. Zorth studied him for a long moment, then nodded. Humans, you are unpredictable, he said. He raised a clawed hand toward the wrecked craft. Tell me, why did you pull the lever there? The boy glanced back at the smoking, sparking craft. Didn't know, he admitted. Just felt like it had to be done. The billionaire's face twisted in surprise, almost a smile. Felt? You mean you acted on instinct? No calculation, no fear for your own life? The boy shrugged again. Something had to happen. Everyone else froze. Someone had to do it. Zorth's eyes narrowed slightly. He had been taught that no creature survived without calculation, without logic, without control. Yet this small human boy had defied all of that. He had saved one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy without tech, without weapons, without any plan. Only courage and instinct. The billionaire turned toward his guards. Leave him. He is not a threat. The guards hesitated, uncertain. I said leave him. Zorth barked. Slowly they backed away, keeping a careful eye on the boy, who was already trembling from the adrenaline still coursing through him. The crowd began whispering, their voices rising with astonishment. A human saved him. Did you see that? What kind of species is this? The boy didn't care about the whispers. He only knew that something inside him had changed. He had acted when no one else could, and the result had been survival. Zorth stepped closer. You risked your life and you asked for nothing. No reward. No gratitude. Nothing. The boy looked down at his torn clothes, dirty hands and boots caked in grime. I don't need anything, he said simply. I just did what felt right. For the first time, Zorth felt something he had never felt before. Curiosity mixed with admiration. He studied the boy's small frame, his unkempt hair, his sharp, alert eyes. Most creatures fear for their own lives before all else. Not you, he said quietly. You think differently. Clever, dangerous, and brave. Perhaps useful. The boy's heart skipped a beat. Useful? He had survived by hiding, scavenging, and stealing scraps of food. Never had anyone called him useful. But he didn't smile. That was not his way. Instead, he glanced away, uncomfortable with so much attention. Zorth's gaze softened just a little. I would like to know you, he said. Learn from you. Perhaps teach you in return. The boy shook his head. I don't know anything. Just survive. His voice was small, but there was steel in it. I survive my way. That's all. Zorth laughed quietly, low and strange, like wind over metal. And yet, your way has saved me. That is no small feat. He paused, looking around the plaza at the scattered, still watching crowd. You have done what none of my guards, none of my machines could. A human saved me with nothing but thought and instinct. Something inside the boy stirred. For years he had lived in the streets, invisible and unimportant. No one cared. No one ever looked at him twice. But now, he had changed the course of someone's life. Someone powerful. Someone feared across galaxies. Do you understand what that means? Zorth asked. You, a human boy, have proven yourself in ways my species could never imagine. You have power, in ways they do not. The boy didn't respond. He only stared at the alien billionaire, unsure what to think. Power? Survival? He didn't care about power. He cared about surviving, about staying alive another day. And yet, this was different. This was recognition. Something humans rarely received, even in their own cities. The crowd began to disperse, murmuring and whispering, but Zorth stayed where he was. He watched the boy slip back into the shadows, disappearing into the alleyways he knew so well. Something about the human called to him, something alive and unpredictable, raw and untamed. Zorth straightened, turning back to his craft. But the thought of the boy stayed with him. The billionaire had seen courage. The billionaire had seen instinct. And he had seen something else, something he could not define. Human ingenuity, unpredictable and unstoppable, even in a small, ragged boy. And somewhere deep in the boy's heart he felt it too, a strange sense that this night, this act, had changed more than just one life. It had changed everything. The next day the boy woke to the cold bite of the streets. He had slept under a broken canopy, the puddles around him reflecting the flickering neon above. His stomach growled, but he ignored it, too restless to eat. The events of the previous night played over and over in his mind. He had saved an alien billionaire. Not just any alien, but Zorith Valen, one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. He didn't know why the thought made his heart pound. He had acted out of instinct, out of a desire to stop people from dying. And yet now people in the city whispered about him. Some aliens had recognized him. Some of their guards had glanced his way with caution. He felt strange, like a small spark had ignited inside him, something dangerous and bright. As he scavenged through the crowded alleys for food, he noticed shadows following him. Not menacing shadows but careful, deliberate ones. At first he ignored them. Survival had taught him to trust no one. But curiosity made him glance back. A sleek, black hovercraft hovered silently above the alley, engines muted. Its door slid open and a figure stepped down, Zorith Valen himself, flanked by 2 aides. The boy froze. This was impossible. No human, especially not a street urchin like him, would ever be summoned by someone like Zorith. You, Zorith said, pointing a clawed finger. Come with me. The boy hesitated. He wanted to run, to vanish into the shadows, but something in the billionaire's eyes stopped him. It was not anger, nor fear, nor a command. It was interest. And in the alien world, curiosity from someone like Zorith was rarer than kindness. They walked through the streets together. The city seemed different now. Aliens looked at the boy, whispering and pointing. Some gave him wide, startled eyes as if seeing him for the first time. He had always been invisible, but now, he was noticed. Inside Zoritha's high-rise, the boy felt dizzy at the sight. Towering glass walls, strange machines that hummed and glowed, and corridors that seemed to stretch endlessly. He had never seen anything like it. And yet he did not falter. He had learned to survive wherever he was, and this was just a new territory. Zorith motioned for him to sit. You acted without thought yesterday, he said. Without fear. You risked your life to save me. Most creatures would run. Most would hesitate. Not you. Why? The boy shrugged. Didn't want anyone to get hurt. That's all, he said again. Simple words, but Zorith listened closely, as if trying to understand a language he had never heard before. Zorith leaned forward. You understand nothing of power or wealth or influence, he said, his voice low. And yet you have more strength than most I know. You see solutions others cannot. You act when others hesitate. Humans, you are unpredictable. The boy looked down at his torn shoes, the dirt under his nails. I don't know about any of that, he muttered. I just survive. Zoritha's eyes glimmered. Survival is the first step, he said. But you think differently. You see patterns others cannot. You act in ways the most intelligent beings fail to consider. That is remarkable. The aides looked at the boy with thinly veiled shock. Some whispered among themselves. They were used to obedience, calculation, and hierarchy. But the boy, ragged, small, human, defied all of their expectations. Zorith stood and walked slowly around the boy, examining him as a scientist might examine a rare specimen. Tell me, he said, how do humans learn such improvisation? Such courage? The boy shrugged again, frustrated by all the attention. I don't think about it. I just do what I have to, he said. Simple, plain, honest. It sounded like nothing, and yet Zorith understood the depth behind it. You are dangerous, Zorith said softly. Not because you have weapons or machines or allies. You are dangerous because you think differently. You adapt. You survive. You act. And that makes you valuable. The boy did not answer. He was tired, hungry, and confused by all the strange talk of value. On the streets, value was coins, food, scraps, survival. He had never heard of being valuable in this way. Zoritha's gaze softened slightly. I would like to teach you, he said. Teach you knowledge beyond the streets. Teach you things your kind has never seen. The boy shook his head instinctively. I don't need learning. I survive my way. That's enough for me. Zorith smiled faintly. Perhaps. But your way, it has the potential to change more than survival. You could shape worlds, human. If you choose to learn, if you choose to act beyond instinct. He let the words hang in the air, heavy and impossible. The boy looked away, unsure. This was overwhelming. He was just a boy from the streets. He didn't belong in Zoratha's world of wealth and power. And yet, there was a spark in him, a quiet pride he had never felt before. He had saved someone incredible, and that act had been noticed. Zorath studied him one last time. "Think about it," he said. "I will return. And when I do, I want an answer. Humans, you are unpredictable. But I sense greatness in you. I want to see it." The boy watched the billionaire leave, the hovercraft rising silently into the sky. Around him, the city continued its endless hum of lights, smoke, and motion. But inside the boy, something had shifted. He felt a strange mix of fear, excitement, and possibility. For the first time, he realized that being human was more than surviving. It was about seeing what others could not, acting when others froze, and being brave when the world expected cowardice. And maybe, just maybe, this was the start of something bigger than the streets, bigger than survival, bigger than anything he had ever known. He clenched his fists and whispered to himself, "I'll see what I can do." Days passed, but the boy could not stop thinking about Zorath Valen. The memory of the billionaire's eyes, curious, calculating, and almost respectful, stayed with him. The city streets felt narrower, darker, and quieter than before. He scavenged for food as usual, dodged the gangs, and slept under broken shelters, but part of him had changed. For the first time, he wondered if life could be more than survival. Then one evening, the hovercraft returned. It glided silently above the alleys just like before. The boy froze. His instincts screamed to run. But something stronger held him in place. The door opened, and Zorath himself stepped out, not alone this time, but with a small group of aides carrying strange devices and scrolls. "You came," the boy said quietly, stepping back. He did not understand why the billionaire wanted him again. "I told you I would return," Zorath said calmly. "I want to know more about you. About humans. About how you survive. And perhaps, teach you something as well." The boy shook his head. "I don't need teaching. I survive my way. That's all." Zorath smiled faintly. "You survive your way, yes. But what if you could survive anywhere? Not just the streets. Not just the alleys. What if your mind could shape the world?" The boy blinked. Shape the world? That was not a thought he had ever considered. He had learned to dodge, to scavenge, to fight when necessary. He had never imagined doing more. But something about Zoratha's words sparked a fire inside him. A strange excitement, like seeing a path he had never noticed before. Zorath gestured for the boy to follow him. They walked through the city's darker alleys first, then to a private elevator that rose far above the neon-lit streets. The city shrank below them as the elevator climbed. The boy's stomach lurched, not from hunger this time, but from awe. Inside Zoratha's tower, the boy was introduced to alien machines he could not understand and devices that glowed with strange energy. He had never seen anything like it. And yet he felt a strange thrill. Somehow he understood possibilities. Somehow he imagined ways he could make these machines work differently. Small sparks of ideas flitted in his mind, like fireflies in the night. Zorath watched him closely. "You are clever," he said. "Not clever like my aides. Not clever like my machines. Clever in ways I cannot predict. You see patterns differently. You find solutions in chaos. That is, human ingenuity." The boy frowned. "I just do what feels right," he muttered. Zorath chuckled softly. "And yet, your way has saved me twice. That is remarkable. Most beings given tools would fail. You succeed without tools. Without planning. Without fear. That is why I want to teach you. Not to change you, but to show you what else is possible." For the first time, the boy considered the idea. Learning? Knowledge beyond survival? The thought was strange, almost frightening, but also exciting. He had never had a chance to explore anything beyond the streets. Perhaps he could. Perhaps he could do more than survive. Over the following weeks, Zorath began to teach him. Small lessons at first. Reading alien scripts, understanding energy flows, navigating simple machinery. The boy was quick, faster than anyone expected. He combined instinct with instruction, improvising in ways even Zorath had not foreseen. Where the billionaire saw only rules, the boy saw possibilities. One day, Zorath brought him to a hollow map of the city. "Here," he said, "is where I am vulnerable. This sector is full of danger, traps, and enemies who wish to harm me. You will learn to see patterns, anticipate threats, and act." The boy's eyes widened. "Why me?" he asked. "I'm just me. A street kid. That's all I am." Zorath studied him carefully. "No," he said firmly. "You are human. And humans are unexpected. You survive differently. You act differently. You think differently. That makes you powerful. Perhaps more than you realize. The boy stayed silent, but inside, a spark had grown into a flame. He felt something he had never felt: purpose. Not the purpose of survival, not the small victories over hunger and danger, but the purpose of doing something bigger, something beyond the streets. And slowly an unlikely bond formed. Zorith did not treat him like a servant or a tool. He treated him like a mind to be understood, a talent to be nurtured. And the boy in return began to trust, began to listen, began to learn. For the first time he felt like he belonged somewhere beyond the alleys, beyond the struggle. And in that place he realized a truth he had never thought of: humans were capable of more than survival. They could adapt, improvise, and rise. They could shape the world if given the chance. The boy clenched his fists, staring at the glowing machines and maps around him. "I'll do my best," he whispered to himself. "I'll learn, and I'll show them what humans can do." Zorith watched silently from across the room, a faint smile on his face. He had seen courage. He had seen instinct. And now he saw potential that could change not only a boy's life but perhaps the galaxy itself. And in that moment, the boy and the billionaire understood something together. Sometimes the smallest spark could ignite the greatest fire. The city of Zarkai never slept, but tonight it felt darker than usual. Rumors had spread. An assassination attempt on Zorith Valen was planned. Dangerous rivals had learned of the billionaire's narrow escape and were preparing to strike. Guards were everywhere, drones hovered in the skies, and the streets buzzed with tension. The boy knew. He had seen the patterns, the whispered messages, the strange movements among the alley gangs. He had learned to read the city, its chaos, its hidden dangers. He had learned from Zorith. And now all of that knowledge would be tested. Zorith entered the command room, his robes flowing, eyes sharp as ever. The boy stood beside him, small but steady, watching the holographic map light up with enemy positions. "They think they can strike tonight," Zorith said. "But they do not understand you." The boy nodded. He didn't speak much, he rarely needed to. His mind was already calculating, already moving faster than the machines around him. He saw the streets, the rooftops, the shadows. He saw the risks. He saw solutions no one else could. Hours passed as the tension grew. The first attack came. A small team of assassins, armed with energy weapons, slipped into the lower district, aiming for Zoritha's personal convoy. Guards spotted them, but only at the last moment. Panic would have followed. Everyone else would have frozen. Not the boy. He darted through the streets, using every shortcut, every alley, every hidden path he had discovered in his time on the streets. He moved like a shadow, unseen, unheard, impossible to stop. At the edge of the assault, he acted. He diverted energy lines, tripped traps, and blocked paths in ways no one could anticipate. The assassins stumbled, confused by a human they could not track, a mind they could not predict. Zorith watched from the command room, his eyes wide. "Incredible," he whispered. "Humans, you never fail to surprise me." The boy continued, moving with instinct and knowledge, improvising constantly. Where others relied on rules, he relied on creativity. Where others waited for orders, he acted on intuition. Step by step, he turned the enemy's plan against them, leading them into traps, disarming weapons, and finally forcing the attackers to retreat. By the time the guards reached him, the danger was over. The boy stood alone on a rooftop, breathing hard, hair sticking to his sweaty forehead, clothes torn and dirty. He looked down at the city, glowing with neon light, and felt something he had never felt before: pride. Zorith entered the streets, his guards behind him. He looked at the boy with awe and respect. "You have saved me again," he said. "And not just me, you have saved countless lives tonight. Your mind, your courage, it is beyond anything my species has ever seen." The boy shrugged. "I just did what I had to," he said quietly. But this time his voice carried confidence, not doubt. Zorith knelt slightly, a gesture of respect uncommon among his kind. "You are more than a human. You are an example. A symbol of what your kind can do. You think differently. You act differently. You survive differently. And that makes you extraordinary." The crowd that had gathered in the streets fell silent. Aliens who had always seen humans as weak, unimportant, and inferior now stared at him with astonishment. For the first time, the humans among the city's population felt pride reflected through someone like him. Zorith turned to the boy. "I want the galaxy to know what humans can do. Not because of their strength or their technology or their weapons, but because of their mind, their courage, and their unpredictability. You have shown them all." The boy looked down, unsure of how to respond. He was still the same street kid, the same human who had scavenged for scraps and slept under broken canopies. Yet now he had changed something. He had shown the galaxy that humans were more than their size, more than their weakness, more than the poverty and struggles they endured. Humans were clever, brave, and capable of things no alien could anticipate. In the days that followed, stories spread. Not just among the aliens but across human settlements scattered throughout the galaxy. Tales of the small, ragged boy who had saved one of the most powerful aliens alive, and then defended him again against impossible odds. Humans were no longer invisible, no longer dismissed. They were seen as clever, brave, and dangerous in ways no one had expected. The boy never sought fame. He remained humble, his feet still dirty, his clothes still ragged. But he had learned something priceless, that courage, instinct, and intelligence were the true measure of a being, not wealth, power, or status. Zorith often called him to the tower, teaching him more, watching him grow, trusting him with responsibilities no other human, or alien, could handle. And with every lesson the boy's confidence grew. He saw patterns, made decisions, and solved problems in ways that astonished everyone, proving again and again that humans were unpredictable, unstoppable, and extraordinary. One night, as the city hummed below them, the boy looked out over the lights, a quiet smile on his face. Zorith stood beside him, silent but proud. The billionaire had wealth, power, and influence. The boy had instinct, courage, and ingenuity. Together they were unstoppable. And in that moment, the boy understood something he had never known before. Being human was not a weakness. It was a strength. A spark. A force that could change the world, if only given the chance. The galaxy would never see humans the same way again.